Come on, please. Gustavo, avisa aí, meu lindo. Eu não tô vendo.
We're live. We can start.
We can start? Okay. Welcome to the 19 New York City Anarchist Book Fair. Today we do the virtual workshops. Yesterday was in person, was a bunch of people, was so beautiful. The energy was alive. And we have all the workshops, was incredible too. I hope also people be in the book fair in person because it was incredible yesterday. And today we have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 workshops. No, it was intense, but it was great. People from many places in the world. Italy, Colombia, Brooklyn, Switzerland, Colorado, and San Francisco, Connect, Brazil, many places. Know that we try our articulation the best we can. And we would like now to talk about our collaborators like TV Floresta in Brazil and Radical Guide in California. Thank you so much for your collaborations. Thank you so much for this project today, the workshop, virtual workshop at the 19 New York City Anarchist Book Fair. Thank you. We are here with M and Jim from Autonomedia. Yeah. And Jim from Pitt. Hi, Jason.
Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Thanks for having me. It's great to hear. Thanks for having me here. Let me pay my respect. I know there's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes, just so much happening. Y'all pulled together such great panels. Radical Guide is proud to be a part of this. So let me give a moment just to kind of give a background of who Radical Guide is and why we're here to hold this space. So Radical Guide works to connect, amplify, and unite liberation movements by preserving their histories, amplifying their present struggles, and fostering transformative spaces for education, dialogue, and collective action. And this event represents that. It's people from all over the world who are looking at what is needed to create a better world. And so happy to be here. So thank you, New York City Anarchist Book Fair, for having us. Thank you, Pitt, for hosting this space. It's an honor to be a part of this. Thanks.
Oh, thank you so much. Hi, good. Where are you, Gustavo? From Brazil. TV Floresta now.
Hello. You guys listening to me?
Yes.
Right. I'm here representing the Floresta TV, which is a media collective created to give voice especially to the indigenous people from Brazil. So we've been around since 2021, 2022, and been working together with the New York City Anarchist Book Fair. I think it's been 3 years already, 3 to 4 years. So it's always a pleasure to be here and an honor also. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoy, and it's a very good place to be here right now.
We love you guys. Thank you so much for this collaboration. Now we have a submedia film, no 10 minutes, because B. Moreira is in Colorado. This time it's too early for him. And then we change, we switch. Here will be 1 p.m. today. And virtually talk about his new book. And now we have the film from Submedia. Thank you so much. Let's see this amazing film.
This is kind of wonky. Don't see it.
The golden age of America has only just begun.
Despite the insistence that Trump's return to office would be a repeat of the incompetent first term, even while Trump and his allies told us exactly what they planned to do. Despite the liberal assurance that Trump could not possibly win, while ignoring the fact that Israel's genocide on Gaza was driving potential voters away. Despite people's belief that the institutions of the American state are strong enough to right themselves after an attack from the inside, which can only be an anomaly, Trump took power by a narrow margin and began dismantling the constitutional state. Following Steve Bannon's strategy to flood the zone using the blueprints of Project 2025, his attack has taken the form of an unceasing series of executive orders and sacking of government officials, with the sheer number of both driving many people into inactive despair. But this attack has also led many commentators to insist on the fact that not all of these orders will become actual policy or law, that the policies will be defeated in court, and that the storied institutions of the US state can withstand this assault. However, these commentators did not keep in mind the fact that the law and the Constitution are imaginary, only effective to the extent they are enforced and obeyed. With the removal of officials and the anticipatory rush of people to obey his racist, misogynist, anti-trans, and eviscerating economic plans even before they become official policy, his orders now become fact. There is still the potential obstacle of incompetence and the fact that the bureaucratic replacements are loyalists but not experienced. But this roadblock isn't assured. It is possible his administration has success in consolidation of power and instigates some form of further devastation. That consolidation relies at least partially on obedience, not only by these loyalists, but also by opposition politicians, the so-called resistance, and the rest of us. Equally unexpected was the oversized role Elon Musk would play as a kind of shadow executive behind Trump. While both of them are basically incompetent rulers, they do have a destructive drive for power that reflects a narcissistic glee in seeing their orders become fact. Trump is clearly in mental and charismatic decline, while Musk, who lacks any kind of appeal except to online incels, has used bogus claims of inefficiency based on incorrect interpretation of government information to dismantle any benefits the state affords its so-called citizens, and to bend the state to serve his own endless search for profit and glory. We could go through all of the cabinet appointees who foreshadow eviscerating policies that will destroy education, public health, and civil liberties. None of these people are competent or have ideas that reflect any kind of ideal democratic public good. It's almost comical the extent to which these people are evil villains driven by the hatred of anyone who isn't a Christian patriot. The mask is fully off, and those in power no longer even pretend a reverence for the foundational US ideals, besides racism. And even the Christian soldiers stand to lose the little they have with the ongoing economic downturn and Trump's threats to undermine the global economy that relies on the US dollar. As in other countries, trans people have become a lightning rod for grabs at authoritarian power, though the specific violent ways of targeting trans people might vary place to place. Like abortion, the right wing in the US has used anti-trans talking points and legislation to rally a chunk of the population to direct their resentment at a minute percentage of the population, with the aim of opening the door for direct control over people's bodies and reproductive capabilities. Paired with attacks on migrants, trans people have become the target of white resentment, where most of the US population finds life harder and harder, less pay and higher prices, living off debt with little to no access to reliable healthcare and poor prospects all around. They follow the claim led by politicians on the right and left that these people, such as trans people and migrants, are somehow receiving freedoms at the expense of the white majority. In the wake of attacks on migrants and trans people, there's also been a dismantling of any policies that support black people, people of color, disabled people, and so on. Racism collapsed into the shadow of the so-called woke, or DEI. Immediately upon taking office, Trump issued a proclamation against gender ideology, the catch-all term invented to encompass any form of transness in the name of protecting women. If we read the convoluted language of this executive order, we can identify a paradox of this expansion of executive power, which perhaps also points to a way for us to sneak by. The executive order frames itself as protecting women from the attack of gender. In the US, there's a long history of defending women, that is, white women, in order to excuse murderous policies, typically against black people, immigrants, people of color, and gays. We can see in this language, too, the nascent attack on education, as the order locates what they claim is an undermining of biology and scientific fact in phrases that echo queer theory. The executive order reads, "This unhealthy road is paved by an ongoing and purposeful attack against the ordinary and long-standing use and understanding of biological and scientific terms, replacing the immutable biological reality of sex with an internal, fluid, and subjective sense of self unmoored from biological facts." Instead, they claim that basing federal policy on truth is critical to scientific inquiry, public safety, morale, and trust in government itself. People have pointed out the irony of this administration calling on science to back up this claim, as they're also willing to oppose so-called objective scientific facts for other purposes like rejecting vaccines and other effective medicines. The ridiculousness has extended in new legislation attempts and court cases to define gender as formed at conception, which of course is a bait and switch of Christian fascism with pseudoscience. As this mimics language that opposes abortion, we can see these attacks as the bald attempts at fascist control over the health of the nation's population. But this lengthy and jumbled order also shows us the impotence of the state to regulate gender except by force. As they say themselves in this order, the erasure of sex in language and policy has a corrosive impact not just on women, but on the validity of the entire American system. Transition is a kind of minor freedom, sometimes accessed through state institutions, that points to roots for escape and ungovernability. There's a clear violence in moving incarcerated trans people from the prisons that match their gender to incorrect prisons where they'll be subjected to more violence and control. There's also violence in removing trans people of all ages from access to healthcare. There's a violence in reverting government documents to assign gender, creating a visual dissonance between the body and the document that makes trans people vulnerable to the forces of the state at different crossing points. Though in the US, we've had a few years where transition was made more possible through open and overt means, and trans people were gaining more representation and paths to assimilation, there's a long history of trans people navigating their needs in and out of state institutions and sharing knowledge and resources to reproduce our lives and the possibilities of transition. This history, which is still present, like abortion care, is where I take my inspiration for the moment. At this point, it is undeniable that the edifice of the US state has irrevocably crumbled. We're not going back to how it was before. There will be no return to normal except in an adaptation and acceptance of this implementation of a more direct and overt fascism. We should not be ignorant of the fact that the last 50-plus years have been a right-wing gathering of resources, policies, positions to instantiate this authoritarian rule that strips any protections and benefits from the state. While this counter-revolution is violent and does not follow our dreams and wishes, it still is a rupture where we can take action. Instead of a top-down view that sees our lives completely determined by what is going on in government, we take inspiration in the ongoing networks of mutual aid and resource sharing that allow for our lives to continue regardless of the regime. We also can draw strength from the increasing frequency of uprisings and the learning process of more and more youth about how to fight in the streets. There will be suffering and repression, but there are clear weaknesses in Trump's moves at this moment that can offer us opportunities for care and rebellion. Don't forget what operates in the dark. Don't forget the damage affinity groups can do. Don't forget the spontaneous eruptions where people come together regardless of politics or identity markers to wreak havoc on the cities that try to contain us, unless authoritarian leftists sap our energy. We have recent memory of fighting and getting each other's back. We can ramp up the militancy and prepare for a future where we know that we will need each other because there is no one but us.
talk about the new book that he just published. Here he is. Jim?
Hello. Yeah, Jim Fleming, a small press publisher from Brooklyn, Autono Media, which has been around for over 40 years, and we've published nearly 700 books in radical politics and culture. This morning, we are going to make a presentation about,
You can go by your computer.
About a new book called Cities for a Single Planet. I should mute myself. Where do I mute? Okay. Sorry about the feedback. This is a book by a group called Neustadt Schweiz in Switzerland, but mainly in Zurich. We're joined this morning by Panos and I think Michael, two of the contributors. There's Panos and Michael, I think, is here. There he is. Yeah. They, along with the primary author, Hans Widmer, and a fourth contributor named Dorothy Spürler, are the contributors to this volume, Cities for a Single Planet, a model for the ecological transformation of the Earth. This is the fourth volume that I've done with a longtime friend, Hans Widmer, who can't join us this morning because he's traveling. The first book I did with him was called Bolo Bolo, which was quite successful. This is the 30th anniversary edition, and I will soon publish a 40th anniversary edition. It's been reprinted a number of times and is sold in the tens of thousands. Bolo Bolo was a kind of utopian world system, primary elements of which are reflected in Cities for a Single Planet. That was followed by another volume by Hans under the pseudonym PM, Akiba, a Gnostic novel, and another volume called The Power of Neighborhoods and the Common, like our neighborhood and the commons. Here again is the book that we're focused on for today. It's just is newly arrived from the printer. Though he can't be here, Hans has sent a text that I will read to introduce this, and then I'll turn it over to Panos and Michael. This is a relatively short text, and I would prefer to read it from my screen, so I'm going to try to switch to do that. It's called City is a War Cry. To use the term city has become an almost anachronistic exercise because the structure that was defined originally by strict territorial limits, walls, gates, etc., has been delocalized, deterritorialized, and asocialized, particularly by general auto-mobilization and the breakdown of infrastructural integration. Global or arrival cities are only cities in name, not self-governing communities of citizens mutually recognizing their equal rights. They are clouds of varying density caused by the emergent effects of global real estate and other market forces. Cities are capitalist machines. Traditional city life or urbanity merely survives as open-air museums, Venice or Disneyland as examples, or in the form of commercialized events. Citizens are mere shoppers hunting for cheap offers. Neighbors are a form of social nuisance. Retreating to anonymous private spaces seems paradise. Even green left governments do not help to rebuild interactive communities of empowered citizens, but aim only at providing housing for consumers, trying to create jobs by sustaining economic growth of anything. and to make sure that supermarket chain stores are not too far away. As this way of life wrecks our nerves and leads to spontaneous revolts, the respective structures are interspersed with some calming greenery and parks. The existing utopia still is a watered-down version of Ebenezer Howard's Garden City that was proposed as a cure to the dangerously proletarian inner cities. The current discourse on cities is dominated by concepts of optimal territorial layout, optimization of transport, and architectural forms. But if the term city is to become the synonym of an enjoyable, ecologically, economically, and psychosocially sustainable way of living on this planet, the core concepts must be self-sufficiency, food sovereignty, self-government, self-empowerment. Democracy is the basis of any form of sustainability. People who have no personal stake and power in the designing of their lives will automatically lose interest in ecology, justice, or participation. They will become mere objects of politically manipulated state regulations and thereby fall victims to authoritarian regimes of all kinds. The core of city is software, not hardware. The logic of smart regulation seems to correspond to the immensity of the problems. Big solutions for big problems must fail invariably, though, for seemingly big problems are in fact additions of myriads of small problems, actually how real people behave in their real small lives. And there are 8 billion of us. This is the reason why a planetary way of life must be organized on the basis of a layered system of socioeconomic, democratically manageable modules. The basic module anywhere on this planet must be an accessible form of household that provides sovereignty for food, shelter, and basic care. We, Neustadt Schweiz, have tried to define such a first global module, or GLOMO 1, based on research on ecological, economic, and social parameters. What we call GLOMO 1 should be the first welcoming structure for anybody joining the existing areas of higher density. In typical traditional arrival cities like New York, ethnic communities could fulfill this role of greeting, housing, informing, and urbanizing arriving compatriots from mainly rural regions. These structures have broken down or shown their political and cultural limitations by being exclusive, non-democratic, or even oppressive. What we need are open neighborhoods that can function according to the rules of real commons, cooperatives of around 500 members with clear institutional forms, territorial limits, and food sovereignty as the basis, as the core of basic empowerment. These could be a universalizable model. GLOMO 2, and cities of a single planet, enumerates 5 global GLOMO layers, from this small neighborhood to global in GLOMO 5. GLOMO 2, larger neighborhoods, or even small towns of around 20,000 citizens, are the next logical functional space for all the public services needed for a civilized way of life in the 21st century. Municipal commons unite, support, and complement the basic sovereignty of the GLOMO 1 with schools, health centers, public meeting spaces, justice. Reclaiming direct municipal democracy also means reclaiming economic self-sufficiency, pushing out dysfunctional market forces, replacing them by communal, democratically managed enterprises is the precondition for a balanced, rational economy, ultimately worldwide. This layered system of commons, GLOMO 1 through 5, can be seen as a global proposal for a global movement. The more research we're able to put into it, the easier it will be to implement. Understood in this perspective, city is not a mere form of regulating housing, jobs, and shopping, but a war cry for a different global society. We can hear this war cry in the current worldwide revolutionary urban movements. City is not a nostalgic reference to better, orderly times, but actually a new project for all of us. It is underway, not yet here. So you can hear some echoes of Bolo Bolo in that, in this much more practical and realizable system. Many people who think about ecological change think that cities are somehow more of a problem than a solution. Back to the land often seems to suggest the surpassing of the city form, but not in this conception. So Michael and Panos are the two contributors to this volume who are present with us now. Panos is focused primarily on new media or IT functions in this system. And Michael's contribution is a lot about the communitarian dimensions and the sociality, I guess I could say. Panos, shall we start with you?
Yes. Can I share my screen? I have prepared some slides. Can I try?
Sorry, Panos, we didn't have your sound just yet.
Do you hear me?
Yes, now it's good.
I hear also myself. I'm uploading some slides just to show some images from Zurich. In Zurich, self-organization, it's a lot about organization. So this is why you heard all these layers of GLOMO 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know if you know that PM is the most common initials in the Swiss phone catalog. So this is how it comes, the PM, the nickname PM, and this is why I put my initial is PA, so it's close to PM. Unfortunately, Hans cannot be here. So you see my slides. So we are with Michael, authors of this book. Let me see if I... okay. I put here the last quote that I you hear me? I continue? Yes. Okay. I have prepared to talk something like 10 minutes. I don't know if it's okay. You can tell me to stop. I just make a small overview of Neustartsweiz and a few words about my work on the internet, let's say, on the Bolo net. So Neustartsweiz is about a sustainable lifestyle that has 7 main ingredients. Bolos, in the initial sense of the term, small communities of around 500 people. In Switzerland, there are projects of this scale in the field of cooperative housing. So the difference from other cities is that all these models are different between them. So there is a lot of diversity, although there are cooperative systems. There is a democratically structured. There is a certain density, but with also common spaces, etc., tied to the regional land base, care work, and what it's called microcenter for common life and work. So Neustartsweiz, it means a new beginning, Switzerland. It has its source to the Bolo Bolo and the 80s movement, and later to the cooperative housing movement. And I think the most important is that there is in this movement that there is a positive agenda. Hans PM is always trying to make all these alternatives more appealing and not somehow looking like difficult to do. He calls a cooperative housing project a 4-star hotel. And the idea is always that we minimize private space like in hotels, but there are very generous and very interesting common spaces. And the organization of Neustadts Weiß tries to promote such ideas, invites special guests like Silvia Federici last year, creating workshops, trying to imagine new ways of common life, etc. And also producing books. Hans has not stopped at the Bolo Bolo. He has produced many versions of this that become more and more, let's say, accurate and scientific. He says that he stopped using words like commons because they are overloaded and he prefers to use numbers. So he makes some sort of very rigorous arguments of how much resources are available in a single planet and how much each of us, how much credit it has, and the things of organizational structures to make this possible. And yes, Jim already introduced the books that are published in English. The previous books are all in German. These books are in English, and this last book has been published also before in German and in French. This is the original depiction, representation of a bolo, a community, a neighborhood unit, or a Glomo 1 of 500 people around. Hans has been criticized a lot about this number, and he keeps repeating that it's not exactly 500 people, it's just to give a sense of scale. And since we met quite some years ago, I was the person to think of the digital dimension of the bolo, that in the 80s it was not so clear how it could be. So how the internet and can fit this concept of hierarchical communities, when today the internet is something centralized at the global scale practically. So when all the world communicates through the internet, through the servers in California. So myself, my chapter is called The Terrestrial Internet. And the terrestrial comes from Bruno Latour, from his book Down to Earth. It's the idea of grounding the internet at the local scale. And before we met with Hans, I was very active on the idea of, I was calling it do-it-yourself networking or community networks, talking in different venues about alternatives to the centralized internet. And not only the centralized internet, but also choosing also the offline as an option, not to drag ourselves into the digital world and trying to find solution also there, but to create systems that offline life is always possible. This is very relevant now in Switzerland. We vote for the Swiss ID that threatens to make life without a smartphone almost impossible. And I was using at that term the term organic internet to make it a little bit more relatable to things that people know. And I was always comparing this industrial way of agriculture compared to the urban gardening, small scale. And these are some slides, I just to give you an idea of what is the narrative. And we have these huge servers and the data centers that, of course, then they are not relatable to the biological organic model, but this of the industrial large scale. And I was comparing Mark Zuckerberg with the CEO of Monsanto, and playing with the idea of genetically modified organisms to say that Facebook is actually algorithmically modified data, and try to build on this analogy. And now these are some examples of the top-down Facebook approach. Here Mark talks with the Pope about connecting the whole world through airplanes that give internet from the skies. So it's like the God that connects everybody. And the big question is, can we have an organic internet actually, and how this could look? And at that time, it was very active, different forms of community networks and do-it-yourself networking activities that I was trying to organize. Some of them were trying to give internet access, and others were much more guerrilla networks that would try to connect people even without any internet access, just because there is not, or because it is censored or dangerous. In New York, it was the Red Hook Wi-Fi project. I don't know if it still exists in Brooklyn, and maybe you know the New York Mess community network. These are some images. I don't want to go to... I am still... It says that I'm not... No. Yes. So This is an example of New York. There is a very famous such network in Berlin. So people putting really antennas on the roof and try to create alternative infrastructures that are owned by local communities. In Catalonia, some of these networks now are declining. Wi-Fi net it has stopped. This is a network in mountainous Greece, in Sarantaporo, where at that time there was no connectivity. This was a squat network in Exarchia in Athens, where the refugees were having internet access from a network of neighbors that were sharing their connectivity. And on the other extreme, very small networks, guerrilla, a Raspberry Pi that you can put on a location and then people can connect and share information. This was from the Occupy times. Pirate box, very cool, creative things. A tree that has a website and you can connect only when you are next to the tree. And this is an initiative that we did in Zurich, going to the airport with Greenpeace and hacking the Wi-Fi of the airport to ask people to fly less. And this is a nice analogy for me, the idea of the seed bombs and these small wireless networks that give an imagination of a different way to build the internet connectivity. And so it is possible, but the big answer is that we need a fertile ground to plant it. All these servers, all these machines that would replace the big servers of this big corporation need somewhere to be based. There are many interesting places that are already like-minded, that the cooperative housing. This is a cooperative housing in Zurich that looks a little bit like these images of Hans. And this is me in action to ask for a specific place to become some sort of a bolo. And this is a place in the center of Zurich, many workshops, complementary initiatives. And all this movement led to the founding of a very interesting place in the very center of Zurich. It's called L200. It's very neutral and a little obscure. The name comes of just the address, and everything is possible there. The motto is Was ist das in German, or what is this? And it's a very successful place, which had also integrated the idea of a wireless and local network. So a place that offers a digital layer on top of it for people that are inside there. We did many experiments with people passing from the street, with an Etherpad that they could type. All these don't work anymore. In Switzerland, some people don't know that Wi-Fi exists. They use always the 4G and the 5G. The Wi-Fi is almost not needed. This was another project. We had an interview with a server called Lennon, and it was in our basement, and we personified. We even changed the song, Imagine All the People, to say, imagine all the servers live for today, and there is no cloud, and things like that. So we worked a lot on this idea of building your own internet. And we collaborated with a group from Italy, hackers, the Circe group, that build a lot on the idea of conviviality. They have a very nice book on storytelling, Internet Mon Amour. So these were very inspiring, but somehow all this movement has not reached its potential. We don't have, it's not widespread. The 4G has given internet access to most places. The big companies have a big interest that everybody is connected, so to connect through their own servers and to be controlled by them. And I don't know if you know that the big news this period for these movements is the term digital sovereignty, that you can hear it in the European Parliament. Europe talks about digital sovereignty against the big US corporations. And this is a very interesting battle, and for the people to observe, like the European states trying to compete with the US companies for control over the citizens, but the citizens always being controlled by somebody. So, yes, this story is a little bit told in this chapter of the possibility to create alternative internet with this optimistic and romantic style of Hans, that we could have servers at every glomo hosting the services that correspond to this level. And yes, that's all from me.
Okay, thank you very much, Panos Antoniadis. And I should simply say that Dorothy Spieler's chapter in this book was about water as a resource. and the politics of water provision and maintenance. And now Michael Baumgartner, whose chapter is about communities and the social dimensions of the cities for a single planet. Michael?
Thank you, Jim. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not having a presentation, but I'm very glad, Panos, that you did it, and you actually provided a lovely bridge to when you said citizens being always controlled by somebody. I think that's a reality that most people are not aware of, or they think it has to be that way. And my contribution to Neustadt Schweiz, the reason why I joined was actually twofold. When I became a board member several years ago, it was because I was really intrigued by the concept of the GLOMOS, the 5 global modules, which basically provide an alternative to nation states. And as we all know, nation states are not natural and they're not very old either. And they don't have to be. They are very powerful today, and today they struggle, though, because the world goes global. It's not the first time, but it's the first time in a dimension where it's hard for governments to control the citizens. So that really becomes almost a must for all political parties, right wing or left wing, or however you want to pigeonhole them. They all aim towards same directions, which is controlling the citizens. And what I'm interested in, and what my contribution was to the book, is about social structure. How do we govern if we don't just leave it to a few people? And basically, those who govern are still the same to the time back when nation states were first invented. It's always an elite, and it still is an elite. What I do is writing about the issues that could be different. And what always amazes me is when I do talk, and yesterday I had another small workshop again with members of different political parties, and it was actually quite interesting. It was conservative parties, but also members, one could say, or representatives from socialist or green parties. And I did a little exercise on democracy. And what is always intriguing to me is that everyone seems to think that we live in democracy or in a democracy. Now, let me tell you, and I'm sure many of you know this already anyway, is no one lives in a democracy, nowhere in the world. Even so, democracy has actually quite well been defined over 2,000 years ago. We haven't reached it yet. We're still being governed. And democracy is actually what it means when people govern. And it was fascinating. One of the critiques to democracy is usually the one, it's the dictatorship of the majority. That's a nonsense. Only someone who really doesn't know what 2,000 years ago has been defined as democracy can say this. Democracy is actually the basis of democracy, or what democracy must provide is equality. Indifferent of gender or sexual orientation or color of the hair or whatever, everyone who lives in a space has the same share and the same say. That's the basis of democracy. So that can't be the dictatorship of the majority, because you cannot inflict on someone else what you don't want for yourself. So it's quite fascinating. And when I then elaborate on what Aristotle, more than 2,000 years, said about democracy, when it's usually that I get attacked by my own fellows from the past, Green Party members or left-wing party members, because, as I said, they claim, it's the majority dictatorship. No, it is not. We have the problem that we now live in a system which is a republic system. All over the world, what's called democracy, these are republics. They're leftovers from the aristocracy governing. That's still the same principle. And what we end up with is elections, and then we end up with the governance of the majority. That's what we end up with in the current election-based system. Democracy doesn't include elections. It's one of the fascinating things about that we don't know about democracy. Aristotle made it very clear that elections are an aristocratic tool to stay in power. And I guess we all agree and see that this is precisely what happens still everywhere in the world. Never mind if you call them left or right, it's political parties that now are the elite that try to govern. Of course, you know, their financial ties and all of this, I don't want to go into that. But what I find fascinating about the concept of democracy, and that's why when I talk about organizing community at whatever stage, is that the goal of aim of democracy actually is liberty. And that's quite fascinating. Most people don't know that. We in German, we only have one word for it, Freiheit. In English, you have two, liberty and freedom. Well, freedom is, we can only create freedom within ourselves. But what we can give as a community to everyone is liberty. And they're the same liberties that we all should have. And actually, these liberties should make freedom possible. Now, we're far from that. Even in... I have this strange sound. Can you still hear me? Good. Okay. Even in Switzerland, which I do when I talk in other places outside of Switzerland, I think we have probably the best political system today. But that's far from being democratic, because it is the dictatorship of the majority. And that's actually for people always a bit strange when they hear that not even Switzerland can really claim. We always say we're a direct democracy. Well, democracy doesn't need any labels going before it. It's either democratic or it isn't. You know, liberal democracy, what the United States claims to be, there's nothing liberal about that kind of democracy. It's not democracy. So what I do, and that's my contribution in the book, not what I just told you. I don't talk about what you can read in the book. That's a bit silly, you know, having this extra time. But what we end up with is that we realize when we talk about alternative to nation states, that which needs to be organized by all of us, for all of us, is actually just one part of living together. There are many elements where no one has a right to talk into someone else's decisions. We now have the problem in Switzerland. We voted a couple of years ago that if you do not want to donate your organs, you don't have to do anything. It's assumed that if you do not have a passport, an organ donor passport on you, which is a little card saying, you know, if I'm brain dead, which actually isn't dead, you can use my organs. Now, the government has twisted. We had a popular vote where the government put a lot of advertisement in it, telling people to say yes, that turning around the existing habit that now we have to have a passport, and we can actually only have that when we have a digital passport, which is another non-free reason to probably say yes for a lot of people to say yes to an electronic ID, that you actually have to say, I don't want my organs to be taken from me in the case of my brain death. So the government completely twisted something which is entirely individual. This is nothing for the government to organize. This is health and health related. It can't be that the government tells us what health is and how I have to define my own health and what I have to do in order to stay what I would call healthy. So we learn now that we have spheres where the government or the we actually doesn't have a say. But it's really just down to me. And that's what in democracy is called the freedom of the people, of the individual, that we have individual choices that are very individual and affect mainly us. And they have to be left to us to decide. We will never get well-educated. Well, education, I don't mean what we now get state-fed as education. But we don't. If we don't have a system where we learn to make mature decisions, then the system is not worth our support. Democracy aims for free individuals. So that is why I find it quite fascinating. I never thought that I have to defend or talk about democracy. I only learned that most people don't have an understanding, not a clue about what it means to be, or what democracy really means. So this is my contribution these days to Neustadt Schweiz, that I find myself, even in Switzerland, telling people who are politically engaged and have been for many years and talk about democracy left and right, they talk about something else, but certainly not democracy. So that's my contribution for today. Maybe there's questions, I don't know. I can't hear you, Jim.
What do I do here? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, we have about 6 or 7 minutes for some questions. I'll ask a first one. I hope you'll give me brief answers. You have collaborations with a number of other places, primarily, I think, in Europe. What corresponding efforts are you aware of for something like what you're doing in Neustadt Schweiz?
Panos, you want to go first?
I could say, I didn't say that I'm Greek. So this idea of cooperative housing in Greek sounds very exotic, actually. And we have tried recently to create what we call a knowledge exchange process. So there are some new initiatives that have learned from how it happens in Switzerland. The most difficult part to understand is that you can start it without having a house, for example. This organization acts now as an incubator, a type of Neustadt Schweiz for Greece. And there are slow steps. And yes, Switzerland, it has an advantage. How can I say? Some things of this sort happen easier in Switzerland than in other places. There is a culture of cooperatives, respecting the rules, financial instruments. So how to translate this in places that these are not in place? It's an open question, and we try.
Okay. Michael, you have something to add?
I probably could add to that in Switzerland, in Europe, the awareness of other solutions is growing. And that has simply to do with we have quite a few nations, France and England, for example, where there are parts of cities that are abandoned. People still live there. That in the States as well. You have probably whole cities that are abandoned by now. So they have to reorganize. They can't just, people still live there, and they have to create a, life and living and make it possible. They actually do quite well. And what they do is what they realize is that it needs alternatives. So we often get now contacted. We just this year recently had visitors from England, from a larger city in England, where there's a whole area that has basically been abandoned and that has been taken over by a cooperative. That's how they organize often. And they wanted to have some ideas from how do we socially structure, how do we govern, but also to very practical things, creating powers of the grid and money, alternative currencies. So we get now quite a few invitations from neighboring countries. This is why we also translate the books in different languages, where we actually are aware of that humans get together, reorganize, and want to go different ways. And what is quite fascinating is that our texts are by now on the English website. We might be able to share that with you. It's newalliance.com. I think it's .com. And New Alliances. And there, these concepts are now out in very different language. I think it's, Panos, correct me if I'm wrong, even I think a Chinese version by now. So it's out there and people are doing it. That's the wonderful thing. So, we are contacted often with very particular questions. How do you manage this? Like the internet issue is one. And we sometimes just, are contacted for an input like we have now today, that they are different ways of not just living together, but governance, for example, and organizing, the access to technology.
Okay. Maybe we have time for one other question.
I have a question.
Yeah. Black.
Okay. Hello.
Hello, and who are you? Can't see you.
I'm Black from New York City Anarchist Book Fair. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Okay, look, I have two questions. One is about currency in this new society. I think any kind of currency creates class. It means one of the points I have been reflect a lot is really the fucking elimination of money. I think while we have money, we have class. It means that's, from my perspective, is a thing I consider, and I have been thinking a lot about that. You understand? The second thing is how Swiss, because we love Swiss, we love the meeting that we have 2 times now. We love, everything we did here and there. The thing is how Swiss deal being imperialist and the relation between the anarchists in Switzerland with how they affect the destruction of the imperialism in the rest of the world, because Europe is like the privilege, I mean, I come from Brazil, it means, you know what I mean? It's like how the anarchists deal with the privilege in relation for the other countries, that is the colonial.
Well, what can I tell you? The first one wasn't really a question, was it? It was more of your opinion, and I think there is a valid point in that. Money provides more problems than solutions.
I want to hear your opinion, you know what I mean, about money, like that perspective.
Well, there's a lot to say about that, but money certainly provides, in the short time that we have, I would agree that it provides often more problems than solutions. And I think the underlying problem is the problem of exchange. I think we could do more often, learn to give freely rather than exchanging, whether the exchange goes through money or you give me this weather and I'm going to give you these pans in exchange. Learning to give, especially the things we don't need. And we live still in one of the richest, probably still by many standards, at least top of the list, richest countries. There's plenty that we can give. Look in my background, lots of books and things that I work with. Do I need them all? Time being, yes. When I don't, rather than selling them, giving them to someone who is interested. As for the anarchists in Switzerland,
create libraries.
Yes, exactly.
Libraries, or everybody have access to the books.
We now do that actually in our village. We have that. We have several places where you just give books and people can go and get, take one, put one in, whatever. The other, what you asked about anarchy in Switzerland, it's very established, in my opinion. And I just like to answer your question with sharing an experience that I had. When I was criticizing...
1 minute, my love, just 1 minute we have. 1 minute to finish.
Panos, do you want to say something? So I'm not...
No, I don't want to say anything. I just want to listen. 1 minute.
I just wanted to give a reference of the Pessoa book, The Anarchist Banker, and say that in Switzerland, they use this plenty of money at least to experiment with some alternatives, and they produce some good experiences and good case studies that people can get inspired. But of course, the privilege is here, and this cannot be, thrown away.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. It was amazing. You want to say something?
I'd just like to say thank you, Panos and Michael, for your appearance. And thanks to all of the organizers of the very successful 19th annual New York City Anarchist Book Fair, probably the best attended one ever. And
each year get better.
A marvel.
Each year get better.
Every year it's better, yes. Thanks again. Okay.
Thank you, and have a wonderful remaining fair.
You too. Love from New York City. Love.
Thank you.
Look, we are here. Look, many people here. Look at this. You see? Many people say, hey, look this, everybody. Bye-bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Now we need to switch.
So we're talking today about the new issue of World War III Illustrated, number 55, which is entitled The Right to Live in Peace. And this issue deals with the ongoing situation in Gaza. And the title comes from a song by Victor Jara called The Right to Live in Peace. And Larimar Laura is going to sing that song.
El derecho de vivir, poeta Ho Chi Minh, que golpea de Vietnam a toda humanidad. Ningún cañón borrará el surco de tu arrozal. El derecho de vivir en paz. Indochina es el lugar más allá del ancho mar, donde revientan la flor con genocidio y napalm. La luna es una explosión que funde todo el clamor. El derecho de vivir en paz.
So this is Larimer's piece for this issue, and it was really Larimer's idea that we involve the song in the issue. So I'm hoping Larimer would explain the history of this song and how it's relevant to the situation in Palestine.
Yes, absolutely. So, I just a bit about myself. I'm a cartoonist. I'm also a grassroots organizer in New York City, in a movement for Puerto Rican independence. And so, in my organizing work, international solidarity is of incredible importance to us. And I'm also a cultural worker. Make music. And so I listen to a lot of radical musicians. Of course, Victor Jara was really the person who started the Nueva Canción movement out of Latin America, of kind of like anti-imperialist folk songs. And so he was coming out of Chile during the time of the popular socialist movement, and this is late 60s and the 70s. This is when the US is engaging in their war of aggression in Vietnam. So he produces this song that's in solidarity with the Vietnamese people, and really just professing that that love to Vietnam from Chile, while engaging in the struggle there. And there have been I produced that piece that was on the screen in November of 2023. So this was a month into the genocide in Gaza, and the parallels between the movement to support a free Palestine and the movement against the Vietnam War in the United States were becoming really, really clear, where this was a moment where the U.S. couldn't hide its genocidal intentions, right? And people were really seeing this moment for what it was, in a way that was really echoing that moment. And so I created that piece as an expression of solidarity, with the people of Palestine, of course, with the people of Gaza, from not just New York, but also from the Puerto Rican movement, wherein Puerto Rico is also, right, a settler colony that's been undergoing, right, those conditions for the last 500 years. So we have very, very deep solidarity with the struggle of the Palestinian people and the struggle for a free Palestine. And in that way, like, we've worked closely with Palestinian organizers the entire time we've been out here, like, showing up to Nakba Day and all kinds of things. So that's kind of, part of what informed that. But I was definitely thinking a lot about this song and listening to it, and how much that sentiment still, came through, that this song is, right, like, it's an expression of love, but also of the triumph of the people, with the understanding that in the end, the people's struggle will succeed, and we will see a free Palestine. So.
Well, thank you, Larimer, for that piece, for your artwork, for your singing, and for the optimism and principled politics you brought to the magazine. We really appreciate your participation. This is a really special issue because this is the first issue that was edited by Mohammed Sabana, who has been a contributor to our magazine for a number of years, and I like to think of him as my personal friend, but is now also an editor of the magazine. As some of you may know, we have a large editorial board, and Mohammed has joined that editorial board. So I'd like to turn this over to Mohammed to talk about his work in the issue. And Mohammed, tell us about what you're doing with the issue.
Thank you, Seth, for this great opportunity to participate with this issue first, and with this great contribution with our struggle against the occupation, against the settler colonialism that we are facing here in Palestine. It's not just about land, it's not just about human being, and it's also about the narrative. As Edward Said said, that the power of to narrate or to block other narrative from forming and emerging, it's very important for culture and imperialism. And that's exactly what we have been facing since 1947, not 1948, and maybe before that, that the Israeli and the settler colonialism want to block the narrative of the Palestinian people in order to justify their occupation for our land, and to justify exactly what they are doing right now in Gaza. They've mentioned that explicitly with the beginning of this genocide, that we are fighting against human animal. And with this issue, we prove that we are, as a Palestinian, we are a human being. We have artists, we have writer, we have this opportunity to create an visual art, and to convey our narrative for the reader and the audience from around the world. It's not just our resistance, it's not just about our land, and also about our dignity, our heritage, and our image for us as a Palestinian people, that we are human being. In this issue, I participated with this piece that it would be next year. It will be printed in a whole book, talking about or comparing between the life inside the Israeli prison after the 7th of October and the life in Gaza. My brother was a Palestinian prisoner. He spent more than 1 year during the war inside the Israeli prison, and this silent genocide inside the Israeli prison, it can be compared with what's going on in Gaza. That's why I brought his story as a vehicle to convey the situation in the West Bank, for the Palestinian prisoner in the West Bank, and for the human being and the people in Gaza. All of these story in this book, it will be a real story. The story of my brother came by interview with him after he was released from the prison, and actually while we were working in this issue, he was arrested for 1 night by the Israeli. And just last night, the Israeli break into my village in around Jenin, and as usual, he prepared himself to go to the Israeli prison. The life inside the Israeli prison, with the starvation, torturing, attacking the Palestinian prisoner inside the Israeli prison, it's similar to the life inside Gaza. No one right now talking about the Palestinian prisoner, because all the concentration and the media talking about Gaza, but it is the same right now for more than the number that we know, 10,000 Palestinian prisoners inside the Israeli prison, but we don't know how many Palestinian prisoners from Gaza who they are right now in this Israeli prison. And I want also to explain one thing, that my brother and many Palestinian prisoners, they are inside the Israeli prison under the administrative detention law. That means these prisoners, they are inside the prison without going to court, without being without any reason, actually, just because the Israeli military forces or the Israeli intelligence want to arrest them, just because they think that they want to put these Palestinian prisoners for their reason. As you can see, I try to design my character by two ways or two style. The cubism, that you can see the Israeli prisoners, the Israeli soldiers, all these features inside the prison. But when you are looking to the Palestinian prisoner, the style of these Palestinian prisoners, more cartoony way, more cartoony style, and that's because I want to implement MC Cloud theory about the character design and how you can create this cartoony character to make it easy for the reader to replace themselves by this character and to feel exactly what exactly they face inside the Israeli prison. And all of these details, maybe the reader will not believe that all of these details, it's real details. That's my brother. That was his journey during 1 year inside the Israeli prison. All of these things, as you mentioned, I've tried to use a new technique and a new way to create this kind of cartoon. And this graphic novel can be the second issue of my first graphic novel, Born of a Dream, which was published in 2020 by Street Noise in United States. And this book, Welcome to Hell, it will be published but also by Street Noise, because the first book I was talking about, because most of my career or most of my artwork now rely on settler colonialism political framework, how the indigenous face the settler colonialism regime and how the settler colonialism want to treat the indigenous. At that time in 2020, I want to compare between the Palestinian people inside the Israeli prison and outside the Israeli prison. By that book, you will discover that all the Palestinian people, even inside the prison or outside the prison, they are prisoners. They are in these cities, not just in Gaza, and also here in the West Bank. Each camp, each city, each village here in Palestine and in the West Bank, it can be prison. Right now, we cannot go outside Ramallah without crossing 3 or 4 Israeli checkpoints. And if you watch the news, you can find how many the violence of the Israeli illegal settlers in the West Bank. You can find that right now in the West Bank we have more than 900 Israeli checkpoint and gate if you want to cross through the Palestinian city, which should be under the international law as a Palestinian state. That's why at that time I want to compare between the life inside the Israeli prison and outside the Israeli prison to prove that what we are facing is settler colonialism who want to implement the logic of elimination, as Patrick Wolf mentioned in his book, The Settler Colonialism. But after the 7th of October, what we are facing even inside the Israeli prison and outside the Israeli prison, inside Gaza and outside Gaza, actually the Palestinian people, they are facing genocide. And in Gaza, you can watch that through the social media videos, through the news, and surely not the mainstream media. BBC and CNN and all Fox News and all of these channels, but you can watch all of these videos from the social media, from the activists from Gaza, from the journalists who they been targeted since the 7th of October also. That's why also I want to convey exactly the Palestinian prisoner inside Gaza, inside the Israeli prison, how they are facing the same genocide without news, without activists, without anyone can convey this event inside the Israeli prison. You can see that the different style between the two characters, the oppressor, the settler, and the indigenous people or the Palestinian prisoner inside the Israeli prison. You can see the panels, that the black area around this panel, because right now I'm trying to do my research about for the PhD. I'm trying also to implement all of this theory that I'm reading about the comics. The big area between the panel to give the audience or the reader the space to think or to fill this gap between these panel and to imagine exactly what no one can imagine what's going on inside the prison. Because right now still my brother he's treating himself by going to the mountain, the wild life around our village, because what he faced inside the Israeli prison, no one can imagine that. That's why you can see the gutter around the panel, big with big black area. to give the reader the space to think about the life inside these Israeli prisons. More presents about, more panels just to convey. And also I used the Indian ink to produce this book or this piece for World War III magazine. And actually I started this book with the piece of World War III magazine. And I thought maybe I can do it whole story because there are many stories from inside the prison. And also, I interviewed many friends from Gaza. Akram Sorani, he's a writer, and Safa Audi, she's also contributed with this issue for World War III. I interviewed them, get some story from them about the life inside the Israeli prison and inside Gaza to compare between all of these details. That's the piece. I don't know exactly if I can talk about something else.
I think that I know our time is limited, so maybe we should go on to talk to one of the artists who you brought into the issue, which is Hamza.
Hamza.
Yes, Hamza, tell us about the work you did for the issue.
Well, firstly, good morning from your side, good evening from our side of the world. It was an amazing opportunity that actually presented by Mohammed Zabani for me to share with you this glorious platform, the World War III magazine. Well, actually, I'm not that articulate as Muhammad, and not that academic. Let me say in the comic, in the comic field. I'm a visual artist. I did my master's in autonomous design. It's basically public art, politics, and sociology, all mashed together. So, and actually, I'm blessed with ADHD. It's a blessing, actually, because I can do many things in very short time. And yeah, so when Muhammad proposed this opportunity that I can elaborate or express what's going on inside my 4 or 5 brains in my head, yeah, I was amazed. Like, thank you, Muhammad, and thank you, Seth, for this opportunity. And actually, I have a quote from Shakespeare from Midsummer Dream, I think. Yeah, things need not to have happened to be true. Tales and dreams are the shadow truths that will endure when mere facts are dust and ashes and forgot. So yeah, basically it's about the stories that we can keep.
Can we see the artwork?
Yeah, of course. Now I will share my screen to show you my pieces or my piece. So yeah, it's called Not Numbers. It's a fictional story based on, I think, real events. It's a match between our realm and the dream realm, let's say. It's about a janitor. He used to be working on this kind of school, and after the bombing, after a few days of bombing, he just saw the place that he worked in, and you can see the rubble and leftovers of the school, bags, notebooks. He just sat there and he didn't know what to do. At night, he started to see shadows, and he didn't understand what they were. He tried to approach them, and basically, they are just the stories. People who really lived there. They were interacting with the space itself. I use this kind of. I will try to speak like Sabani with some fancy comic words. This kind of swirl with the moon. It looks like a portal between the real world and the imaginary, the fictional, the ghost realm. That's why we can see these characters when we see the moon. To tell you the truth, I'm not the best comic artist. I just do it like part of what I do, part of my practices,
It's
part of my
beautiful.
many practices. Sorry?
I say it's beautiful.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, and it's a universal human experience that the people we've lost speak to us.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And at one moment, he just interacted with these ghosts, like, please don't forget us. And he promised that he won't. And later on, the next morning, it's bright day, and he started collecting stuff from the rubble, notebooks, pens, whatever. And finally, it became a museum, the Museum of Yesterday. I know it's a cliche name, but sometimes cliches delivers the idea, sorry, more quickly. And I think I concluded my whole concept with this statement in the last frame. We are not numbers to be counted, but names that pulse in the memory of the land. We had dreams that bloomed and stories carried by the wind through the ruins. Sorry, I'm a little bit dyslexic also. So yeah, basically this was my artwork. This was my contribution to this issue of World War III magazine. And maybe I shouldn't say that, but just to clear off my chest, I actually used AI. You know that?
Okay. Whatever
I'll
you
tell you
gotta
why.
do.
No, in a way, I'm not proud, but proud to say it. Instead of building the frame from scratch, I used AI, described the whole scene that I want to see, and basically it gave me the structure, and I re-illustrated it with my style. So it was like a helper to me, not like someone who played everything. So in a way, I cut instead of working, let's say 2 hours, it became 30 minutes. Well, not the numbers, but it shrank the time that I was working on. And actually, this is my second time illustrating a comic using digital media. Usually, I do it with ink and paper and stuff. But this was my second time doing it on a tablet or a Wacom, actually.
Well, we very much appreciate that you've created something beautiful and hopeful out of such a difficult and upsetting situation that the Palestinian people and the world find themselves in. So we very much appreciate your contribution and the contribution of Muhammad in bringing you and many, many other Palestinian artists into the issue. And if I may, I'd like to talk a little bit about the magazine World War III Illustrated and how we have dealt with the issue of Palestine over the years. Oh, excuse me. Does everyone see the phrase World War III illustrated and the issue of Palestine?
Yes.
Okay. So we started this magazine in 1979 as a response to the rise of Ronald Reagan, and we were always critical of American foreign policy and American domestic policy, and certainly all the wars that the right has dragged us into over the years. The first editors were myself, Peter Cooper, and Christoph Karlhofer, and we used to joke that we were two Jews and a German talking about the rise of fascism in the United States, which doesn't seem like a joke anymore. And we really became aware of the issue of Palestine because we found out that a cartoonist, Naji al-Ali, had been murdered, had been assassinated in 1989. Eric Drucker made us aware of this and brought us an interview with Naji Ali that had originally been published in Middle East Focus, and we published this in World War III Illustrated in 1988. And this began a process for us of looking at the issue of Palestine, and it inspired work by a number of World War III artists, including Eric Drucker and Peter Cooper and myself. And Tom Keogh traveled to Gaza in 1989 and did a comic strip detailing the conditions he found there. And because this was several years before Joe Sacco published his acclaimed Palestine series, it's quite possible that Tom Keogh was the first American cartoonist to go to the occupied territories and to show what conditions like there were like. And here's a panel where Tom describes the Intifada and describes it as consisting of many different activities, not just people throwing rocks at soldiers, but all kinds of civil disobedience. So this is, of course, this word that we're now told we're not allowed to use, Intifada. And this is Tom showing what that word actually meant. So that was an incredibly powerful piece he did in 1989. And more recently, Ethan Heitner joined our group, and Ethan has been very active in the movement for boycott, divestment, and sanctions against Israel. And we've also continued to publish Palestinian artists like Taysir Barakat and Mohammed Sabana. And our previous issue came out right after October 7th, and when October 7th happened, we communicated to the Palestinian artists working on the issue that we still wanted their work and that it did not change anything for us. We were very interested in what they had to say, and they did great work for that issue. Here's a cover by Taysir. And the current issue is edited by Mohammed Sabana, Annabelle Heckler, Larimar Laura, and myself. So Mohammed participates as an editor and also did this amazing cover art. And of course, this is an ongoing crisis, and people want to do more than read a comic book. So here are a few groups you could support and participate with. And you might want to take a screenshot of these frames so that you know how to reach these groups. But of course, there are many people around the world and many groups around the world working on the Israel-Palestine conflict. So these are not the only groups, and you might find someone you can work with who is closer to you and your politics than the groups listed here. But I believe more important than anything else, any other political activity right now, is simply to be clear with everyone you know that you understand that there is genocide going on in Gaza and that you support the human rights of Palestinian people. And to say that, you know, not only to your political comrades, but to all your friends, to your family, to the people at your church or your mosque or your synagogue, to say that at work, to say that with everyone you deal with at school, because what we've been dealing with for many, many years is the idea that this is too controversial to be discussed, that you can't say anything about the Israel-Palestine conflict. And there's been an imposed silence on this issue. And what we're seeing in Gaza is what states do when they are beyond criticism, when they're not accountable. So the first thing we need to do is break this silence and establish that it is okay to criticize Israel, that it's okay to talk about this issue, that this issue is something human beings can discuss. And I encourage everyone to be as upfront and out of the closet about their support for Palestine as possible. And I hope you will take that message from our magazine and from our participation in all the events that the magazine is participating in this fall. Thank you very much for your time. So there we go. Does that work for everybody?
Yes, that was great.
Okay, thank you so much for all of you for everything you've done on the issue. And I think we've done something important here. I feel producing this issue of the magazine has been one of the most important political activities I've been part of. In that, you know, I think people need to hear Palestinian voices right now. I think it's really important that people understand your point of view. And thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Seth. That was great to work with you for this issue and to give all the Palestinian artists, especially the artists from Gaza, actually, Safa and Maysara, and Suhail, this opportunity also to convey their voices during this genocide.
Mohammed, I'm wondering how are they doing?
Maysara, he was evacuated by the France government to Marseille. Safa is still in Deir al-Balah. Suhail is still in Gaza also. Both of them, but they will be evacuated because right now they declared that Gaza City is a war zone.
Right.
I'm not sure where exactly, but Safa right now, this is something important. I work with Safa with workshop with the kids who they been evacuated to Gaza. And now, right now she's giving them workshop about comics and about political cartoon.
Okay, that's beautiful. I really pray for their safety, and just for, you know, all of this to come to an end very quickly, because they've definitely been on my mind. Just having, you know, worked with them on this issue. And if there's any you know, any kind of support that we can offer them beyond like publishing their work, like any kind of funds or anything, please feel free to, you know, reach out, and I can try to connect to people in New York at any time. Because yeah.
Thank you.
And how are you, Mohammed?
I'm fine.
You're fine?
Great. In Gaza, in Ramallah right now.
Okay. And is it okay to include all of what was just said about the situations of the artists in the video we send out?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
If you want, I can send you a video that Safa sent me just yesterday about her workshop in Gaza. I will send it for by the email for all the list. You can see it also.
Okay, we'll find a place to put it.
Thank you.
I don't know whether we'll be able to give it to the Anarchist Book Fair because we may have run through our time, but we'll see. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody. And
Thank y'all for accommodating my
under the conditions.
Thank y'all for accommodating my technical difficulties. I'm so sorry for the delay, but I really appreciate the
problem.
You should work with Hamza. Hamza is great with the AI, and he can edit some of your song by AI.
Okay.
I really liked the comic.
Thank you.
Yeah, we love that comic. Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye,
God bless you all.
Have a great one. Be safe.
Nice. Beautiful, beautiful. We are here. You said thank you so much for this amazing presentation, this amazing group of people. I thank you a lot. It was amazing, beautiful to organize that.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. We decided to pre-record it because of the unpredictable nature of Mohammed's situation. That who knows if we scheduled to communicate with him today, whether we would have reached him or not.
Yeah.
So we thought better to pre-record it when we had the chance. And I will say we made that recording in a great rush because to fit into everyone's timeline. So there were a number of inaccuracies. For instance, obviously, Mohammed Sabana, or rather, my God, Najia Ali was assassinated in 1987, not 1989, after we published the interview. And Jordan Worley wasn't mentioned as an editor, and autocorrect fucked up a lot of the names of the artists whose work was popping up there. Floyd Tangerman was called Floyd Hangman. But okay.
But we can open for some questions and things here. Look, it's the people here.
One quick question. This is not so much about the issue, but yesterday I noticed at the garden someone wearing a T-shirt that said Gaza Biennale.
I heard there was some type of like art event where
you
know Palestinian artists were being shown and they were calling it the Gaza Biennale. I don't know the details of it. I know that there's a real sense among all the Palestinian artists I've been dealing with that it is their duty to document the situation, get it out to people, you know, which has made it, you know, really conducive to work with all of the artists in question. You know, so I think that's going on. I think there's a real sensibility that it's important to document the situation right now and to get the work out to people.
Absolutely. Do you have some questions?
No. There are a couple questions from the chat, mostly.
Okay, let's ask some from the chat.
I mean, one is, where can World War III issues be acquired?
What?
Where can issues of World War III be acquired?
You can get them online from AK Press, from their website. That's probably the easiest way for people around the world to order them. And they're at a wide range of alternative bookstores, such as Pitt,
Blue Stockings,
in New York, Blue Stock. I don't.
The book fair.
The book fair.
Also, if your bookstore doesn't carry it, you can tell them that they can order it from Ingram, which is an international distributor, or they can order it from AK Press, which distributes in the U.S. but also has a branch in England, in the UK. So that, you know, if the store in your community doesn't carry it, they could be, you know, because those distributors are widely available, you know, so that the best thing to do would be to tell the store you're dealing with to go out and get it. I know we used to be distributed in record stores, which of course don't exist for the most part anymore.
Yeah.
And how often do issues come out? How often do issues come out?
We're right now on an annual schedule, and we treat it as an annual book, and it's distributed as a book rather than a periodical.
So you don't get a subscription?
What? No, we don't do subscription. But you can always order. You can order most of the back issues, the recent back issues at least, from the AK Press website.
And we just have time for one more question.
Sure.
A little more, I mean, somewhat related to that. Someone asked about the difficulties of self-publishing over the years and how that's transformed. But I might also want to ask how the collective of World War III has developed, even just to see these people we saw today.
We're incorporated as a business, not a 501c3. We're not a charity, but none of us get paid, and none of us ever have. I always joke that if somebody works on the magazine, they can make twice the amount of money I do, because 0 times 2 still equals 0.
I love that.
But our structure is that there are sort of two contingents of people who work on the magazine. There are people we refer to as editors and people we refer to as contributors. Editors are people who not only submit their own work, but will do all the things necessary to keep the collective going, such as running the table yesterday, or doing distribution work, or preparing work for the printer. And the people who are on the editorial board then get to make decisions about what the magazine does. Contributing artists maintain copyright to their work, give us a one-time opportunity to publish it, but they don't have influence over our collective decision-making process. So that's the distinction. And as it turns out, there are lots of artists who need this platform, and lots of people who want to work with it. And I am finding myself, as I look around right now, realizing that, everybody was like, oh, really, you should be like Colbert and talk to the whole society by infiltrating the mass media. Well, okay, that means at any point the mass media can get rid of him, which we're now seeing. You should get, grant money. And like one of our artists had work in the Smithsonian, it was just taken out. Like all of these major institutions that are run with all this not-for-profit junk and all this, big corporate advertising, everybody gets a place in there. Now everybody's getting thrown out again. By doing a DIY project, we've been talking about Palestine all this time. Nothing ever happened to us because of it, because there's nothing to take away. We lost 1 or 2 advertisers, but we're not really dependent on advertising. We have like maybe 10 pages of ads, and they're from small places. So it really doesn't matter, So we can talk about the things we want to talk about without fear, because we have a DIY model. And that's why all the people who were offering their books yesterday at the book fair are important, because they are DIY publishers. Absolutely. And they're therefore free to say what they have to say.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you for this incredible work.
Thank
we
you.
have one more question, no? No, we don't have more time.
Okay.
Sorry, we need to move on.
Seth. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yay!
All right.
Good job.
Okay.
Okay, let's go.
Next group is having technical, they cannot enter.
You're kidding.
Yeah, they are saying we cannot.
Italians.
Music.
I think
we need music.
I think you guys are here live. We might have some technical difficulties from our next presenters from Italy, but we will welcome Manifesto Brutal and precisely.
We are here. Everybody together. Let's go, Italians. Come on, sit here. Our friends sitting here.
No, you sit there. They
Okay.
want to meet you.
Hello, everybody. We love you. Tell.
So we ask you to introduce your project and your experiments and what you will perform for us today. If you can.
We are very happy to be part today, to be here, speaking about care and healing. And thanks to Jaisal and Arut who told us about this opportunity. There are 2 collectives here, Manifesto Brutal and Tanto Precisi. for many years working in the field of anti-psychiatric about the question of mental health. Now we are weaving our struggle and trying to do. You can hear me? No,
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And we want to share with you all. It's 2 days that we are working together, eating together, living together to present something that more than a workshop is time to share what we are doing. Is to work with text, poetry, what with thinking about struggle, how we can survive together, how we can critique this society, how we can be in solidarity with Palestine, with all the movement that are struggling around the world. And what we want to share is something that is between a kind of reading, but also a kind in relation to struggle song, in a way. And we are 20 people, 20 comrades now here, and it's very like struggling with technique, technology, and all this kind of stuff that, you know, is very different when the body are together. And one time maybe we come to New York all together and will be something different. But now here we are. We will do this kind of 15 minutes, 12 minutes of this kind of performance, or we can call it another way. And after we can speak about what we are doing. In the center of this stuff, there is this question about how we can survive in this kind of society, what it means not only the violence of psychiatric and the system of medicine and the medical incarceration, but for us it's very interesting and important to be close to what to be the question of madness, the question of to be in a different way inside the city, in a different way inside the relation, and it's what we are trying to experiment all together in this group. And it's like I repeat, it's very important to share with all of you, and to open this kind. We always believe that you have to connect with other struggle, we connect with other groups, and this kind of opportunity. And I think now we can start this. We'll try to do something in a more like poetic way.
If you can hear us, you're on mute.
Hello. Are you guys hearing me? You guys have your microphone muted. Please unmute your mic so we can listen. We are not listening you.
Okay. Now, can you hear?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And again, escape in sickness and study. It can take many hurt years to mold, rooting perpetual pose, sensational suckers, the rest a kiss on crooked things, and walk only by force of loving leverage, mediating continuous assault and normed proxemics, in sickness and study. I, sick, adore and abhor myself. I, incarnated master, suffering, spotted. I hold up a mirror of green wounds that reflect me as an alien, but at leap from the world, in sickness and study. The time when the catastrophe has already happened, in which I've turned somersaulting on ripe strawberry legs and mold. End of the body of the dance, end of the body of the sense, end of the body I had chosen, in sickness and study. Then a tangle, a stumble in this ray of viral ascent in the petrified city, end of possible bodies, end of accessible breaths, an enchantment of state invested and adorned of deviated carrion, the entire apparatus, in sickness and study. I write voracious, broken to the chest. I write quivering beach, that tearing through meager burrows, pneumatic shelters that only by oversight figure things. I write cleanly, and sergeant to the abject, I hold a sig on the tip of the pubis, in precarious balance, divaricate oblivion. It is a torment of sort, always getting disoriented, woman and fish remedy, and blood and plasma, and chlorophyll and light, and a single tiny handle in wood to stay afloat. I found a refuge that is escape, finally.
New Rock the boat to a fertile well. Once we suffered dreaming into a place where the children are playing, their child's games, where children are hopping, knowledge, survivors, if knowing they follow the game without you winning. Their fathers are dying back to the freedom of wise children playing at knowing. Their fathers are dying. Whose deaths will not free them of grounding from knowledge, of knowing when the game becomes foolish and dangerous playing for time not power. Quick, children kiss us, we are growing through dream.
Noi siamo idioti.
We are idiots.
Siamo idioti perché non ci vogliono, non vogliamo.
We are idiots because they don't want us. We don't want them.
Siamo idioti perché non abitiamo il senso comune.
We are idiots because we don't live by common sense.
Non ci prendono, ci provano con le catene, con il piombo, con i farmaci.
They don't get us. They try with chains, with lead, with drugs.
Non ci prendono perché siamo idioti, siamo incomprensibili e siamo 1, 2, 3 infiniti.
They don't get us because we are idiots. We are incomprehensible and we are 1, 2, 3 infinite.
Siamo idioti e l'idiota è il nostro massimamente stante. Idiota.
We are idiots and idiot is our massimamente stante. Idiot.
Nuestro desafío está en superar en nosotros mismos la nefasta dicotomía entre micro y macropolítica. La desarticulación entre ambas esferas de combate solo contribuye a la reproducción infinita del status quo. Más grave aún cuando se establece una conflictiva polaridad o una demonización recíproca en torno a lo que sería la supuesta verdadera actitud revolucionaria.
Son nada sfortunata, onde le fasce, eppure la barbugia me lo disse, eppure la barbugia me lo disse. Eccola un'altra femmina che nasce.
Our strategies are alien to the art world. Our strategies are illiterate and anonymous. Our strategies are unambiguous and outside of legality.
Me son nata donna e me ne vanto e me ne voglio andare lontano tanto e me ne voglio andare lontano tanto a dove non m'arriva manco lo vento.
These strategies are own and many others. Our strategies are like children that learned their skills from others. In this sense, we create strategies. Strategies multiply.
Noi siamo donne sì e non tremiamo e lo spadino in testa lo tienemo e lo spadino in testa lo tienemo e il coltelluccio in petto e il sercio in mano.
Our strategies come instantly from the streets, the city, from the world outside. They come from the survival skills of women working of market stalls in the center of the city, their shelters forming a barricade, raised against the sun and the heat, and against the encroachment of globalization.
Noi siamo donne, sì, noi siamo donne, a litigacci andiamo senza allarme, a litigacci andiamo senza allarme. Siamo più forti noi che le colonne.
I nod to the times, like these branches to the vines, spreading pollen among the creases of every sung syllable. And there's no threshold in every shadow that can be seen, crossed and felt in its simple being, ancestral guardian of every flowing of all the senses, with open doors toward the caustic flows of the abyss, where each body is the body of every other body, where every now is within every continuated breath breathed, that uphold the existence. They are strong, almost invisible calls, within the inlets that permeate every lost instant, in this forceful and decrepit living that wear us down, where answers are offered for everything, to questions we would have never asked. And this flow that accompanies me perhaps embraces millions of years. It pierces through and joins every layer from the beginning of every land, from the beginning of every time.
Now Giselle will read the text in New York.
With everybody together. Now is the time for humanitarian intervention, medical, surgical, nursing, pharmacological care. It is the time for humanity care of the self, seeing itself confronted with inhumanities everywhere taken for granted, not the loneliness of the one, but the whole humanity sick in bed, which can only dream of being elsewhere, a body without words, that can only regain them in the theater of war, where they used to once say evacuate rather than deport. Here and now, dictated by a false quiet life, otherwise shaken by thoughts of death. The here and now itself is the most brutal capitalism, genocide. What happens if the healer needs care himself, herself, themselves? In a time of crisis and emergency, of forces that are failing, of the earth crumbling beneath our feet, of the pronoun we, perhaps, but like a heap that grain by grain is no longer a heap and becomes the other, them, the whole world to go catastrophically against. Now is the time of breaking the silence of the utterly failed uprising, which will see rescuers as heroes, and the infirm, unable in bed, left even more to themselves. What then would the action or the stance of bodies that are bodies and nothing more? Does it mean transforming the dream of sailing toward into reality, or waking up from that dream of sailing toward? What can these bodies do besides protest? What is the body to body, hand to hand, of the body that is body and nothing more? If methodical and daily care to be such has in itself both festivity and protest at the same time, true care is vis-a-vis, a hand-to-hand with tomorrow, unpredictable, undisputed, and inviolable. Okay.
Ay, Nicaragua, Nicaraguita, la flor más linda de mi querer, adorada con la bendita Nicaraguita, sangre de Diriangel. Ay, Nicaragua, son más dulcita que la mielita de Tamagá, pero ahora que ya son libres, Nicaragüita, yo te quiero mucho más. Pero ahora que ya son libres, Nicaragüita, yo te quiero mucho más. Ay, Nicaragua, Nicaragüita, la flor más linda de mi querer, adorada con la bendita Nicaragüita, sangre de Diriangel. Ay, Nicaragua, son más dulcita que la mielita de Tamagá, pero ahora que ya son libres, Nicaragüita, Nicaragüita. Yo te quiero mucho más. Pero ahora que ya soy libre, Nicaragüita, yo te quiero mucho más.
Ora avviciniamo il computer.
Whoa,
Wow.
whoa, good, good. Insane. We love. Amazing. Everybody together, huh? Thank you,
That was
Harut. Thank you,
amazing.
Harut. Wow.
Marcello. Okay, now we hear you.
Now it's good.
That was
Now it's
amazing. That's beautiful.
Beautiful. Thank you so much from here.
How is everybody over there? Andrea, ciao.
Ciao.
Venite di qua.
Ciao,
Ciao, we are everybody.
Ciao tutti.
ciao, ciao, ciao.
Vieni, Ali.
Good morning. Hi, hi. Nice
Ciao.
to meet you.
See, tell us about how you prepared, how you did this whole collage of writing, poetry, songs.
Yeah, we met yesterday and we have for 2 days trying to put things and thoughts together. Also working about the idea of, our history of the group, and Nicaragua is something that is important for person here. And this song was, a kind of international struggle song that is always giving something to everybody, to all the comrades that want to, have in the mind a kind of revolutionary vision. And the text, there is some text that somebody was brought, and other from thinkers, poet, and militant that we love. And above all this, lot of time together, lot of joy. And also, I remember one time Ben Morea told us more sound, less structure, and this was the way of of organizing this.
Or sound. Yes, Ben is going to come on the Zoom at some point online. Tell us a little bit about the Conatus, your proposal of Manifesto Brutal and Conatus, how it's coming together, how you live together and work together and do all these communal living.
Yeah, Conatus is this idea to create different kind of house that we can live together, or we can try to go outside of the city, or go outside of the clinic, or go outside of the family house, and try to create a different way of form of life together. And this is a little step that we are doing here in the countryside outside of Roma, and it's the first step. But it's already, in the imagination, all this opportunity that we are doing is part of this more long vision. And of course, there is the idea about care and illness, that if you live together, you can try different way to take care of each other. And and we did this with our broken English and our broken body and voice. And
it's beautiful.
I hope that something arrived.
Yes, we also see Lupa. We see George, Teddy. Yeah, it's beautiful. We see the landscape behind all the trees that you are watering. You're cooking together and spending time together. I see Alyssa. Yeah, I see Sheila. Ciao.
Sheila is here.
Beautiful. So,
come on.
Well, let's see what we have. Any questions from anybody? Any thoughts? We have some
guys, we have
here.
some thoughts.
Anybody
some
wants to
opinions,
share any
share
thoughts
something.
with
Jim,
comrades
come
in
on, Jim.
Italy?
Come on, Jim.
I think I need a second.
was too powerful.
Yeah.
No,
I'm sure people are watching from
Our
everywhere.
brain is like,
It's beautiful to just see a big collective together, you know. And also, we really like to read together. So it was nice to put some text and poetry for us to read and share with you.
it was amazing.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was amazing also to listen you reading the text of Marco, and yeah, we are very happy.
Yeah.
Next time, also all of us with mask, we can come.
Yeah, we want.
Ah, you will be here parallel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Synergia.
Yeah.
Synergia is beautiful.
Synergy. Shall we?
This is beautiful. Talk more.
I don't know. We have to.
We
will be joined by Ben
Morea now.
momentarily.
Ciao to Ben Morea from us.
Ciao, Ben.
Joseph.
Together.
Yeah, we say ciao to Ben from
Ciao,
all.
Ben.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao, beautiful. Grazie.
Ciao.
And we made this take 30 seconds as Ben joins, Gustavo, if it's okay.
Shara shara ki ha shara shara ki ha shara shara ki ha shara shara ki ha shara shara ki one koe shara ki ha shara shara ki one koe shara ki ha shara shara ki ha shara shara ki nishi 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 shara shara ki shara shara ki ha shara shara ki shara shara ki ha shara shara ki ha shara shara ki Shinna shara kana ya bo shara bo Shara shara ki ha shara shara ki ha shara shara ki ha shara shara ki ha shara shara ki one koe shara ki ha shara shara ki one koe shara ki ha shara shara ki ha shara shara ki nishi 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 shara shara ki shara shara ki ha shara shara ki shara shara ki ha shara shara ki ha shara shara ki shinna shara kunaya bo shara bo ha shara kunaya bo shara bo kunaya bo shara bo.
Oh, hi.
Welcome. We're introducing Ben Morea now to speak a bit about his book, Full Circle, A Life in Rebellion, and to offer, to contextualize and articulate a bit about his life, and then open up a discussion with folks here at Pitt and online. So please, if you have any questions for Ben throughout the chat, throughout the talk, please put them in the chat. Ben will not be appearing on video, just on audio for reference. So Ben, if you can hear us and if you can talk, welcome again to the 19th Annual Anarchist Book Fair. It's such a pleasure to see you.
Thank you. His book.
I can hear you.
Good. Ben, hi.
Hi, Ben.
We are
Can
here.
you hear me?
Yes, we can hear really well.
Hey, Ben, it's Jim. Great.
You see, Jim, Jess, me, everybody
Ciao,
here. Love you.
Hello.
Love.
How are you, Ben?
I am good.
In Colorado.
Okay,
I'm
Ben.
really good.
Okay, great. Look, we want to hear from you for your new book called Full Circle, A Life in Rebellion. Can you talk about your book?
Yes, I can.
Great, thank you.
Can you hear me good, though?
We can hear you.
Okay.
We hear you, Ben.
All right, so the book starts with the beginnings of my life, and it follows my progression from art to politics to spirituality. And I consider those essential, all three, especially the latter part of spirituality, because art and politics alone is not enough. In fact, politics has never led to a change, a revolutionary change of life. It's led often to a dictatorship as bad as the one that it overthrew. So what's always been lacking in these revolutionary changes is the spiritual understanding of life itself, the need for a free life, a life without constraints, without authority, oppression. And so full circle traces my metamorphosis to that point. And I could give a small, short history of how it led to that. I was born in the Maryland, Virginia area. And when I was 10 years old, my mother remarried and moved into Manhattan. So from the age of 10 on, I was in Manhattan in a city project in the ghetto area. It was the north end of Hell's Kitchen. And the particular, that area, the north end of Hell's Kitchen, was often called San Juan Hill because there was a lot of Cuban musicians there that had left Cuba when the Castro overthrow. And in that area of Hell's Kitchen, North End, there was a lot of musicians. It was a musical area. Thelonious Monk lived there, Miles Davis. It was a lot of jazz as well as Cuban music. And I started playing jazz at the age of 14. And unfortunately, very soon after, I became involved with the use of heroin. And I was addicted by the age of 16. And I spent a lot of time in jails and under arrest for different drug-related charges. And at some point, my liver gave out, probably a form of serum hepatitis, very viral form that destroyed my liver. So at that time, I was in jail, and I was put in a prison hospital. And the hospital was a traditional hospital, but it had one floor for men's prison and one floor for women's prison. And that hospital had a therapist that used to visit the prison floors. And the therapist that I had pointed out that this was the third time I had done cold turkey. That is the withdrawal from heroin without any medical assistance. And that it was the third time I had done cold turkey. My liver was gone. And she said, if I were to survive after I left my jail time, I would end up back again, because every time I got out of jail or prison, I went back to heroin and jazz. So she suggested that I give up music because it keeps bringing me back to heroin, and started a therapeutic use of art. And when I was released from my prison term, I never went back to jazz, and I never went back to heroin. And I stayed with art, and I got extremely involved with the whole development of art, from the history of art and my own development within it. And at some point, I realized that art alone was not sufficient to change life. I was becoming more and more political and more aware of the needs that this oppressive society had put upon man. And so, since I felt that art wasn't enough, I became more and more political and added it to my art. And I put out a journal called Black Mask, which attempted to combine art and politics. And we put out 10 issues of Black Mask. And at that point, I had really become totally involved in the political struggle, the radical struggle. It was the time of the Vietnam War, and it was time of the racial upheaval, the beginnings of the racial struggle against racism in America. And my politics and my anti-racism efforts replaced the journal. It was no longer sufficient, and we became street fighters, political activists, and that replaced the publication. And we became a group, a family. We called it a family. We were never an organization. We had no membership. You couldn't join it. You were just part of it. And so the family grew. And the first public event that the family did was to bring garbage. There was a garbage strike in New York. And garbage on the Lower East Side was piling up to places where it was 10 feet and higher. And there was no garbage uptown in the wealthy areas. So we decided that they should have some of the garbage as well. And they had just built Lincoln Center. So we brought the garbage up to Lincoln Center and dumped it in the wading pool. And we put out a flyer called a cultural exchange, garbage for garbage. That Lincoln Center represented some elitism and control of the arts, and we rejected that. So we dumped the garbage in the wading pool. We didn't have a name for our group, but we considered it like a family. But we didn't have a name for the group. And on the leaflet accompanying the Lincoln Center event, since we had no name, I wrote on it, "Up against the wall, motherfucker," not as a name, but as a revolutionary cry. But a lot of people, because that was on the leaflet, they thought that was our name. But that would have been a little arrogant to call yourselves that as a name. And it came from a Leroy Jones poem, who I was friends with Leroy Jones. And we took that phrase out of one of his poems. But people started referring to us as that, as a name. And we continued the street struggle. We, at that time, it was the Vietnam era, the Vietnam War era. And we not only opposed the Vietnam War, but we felt that it must stop, and that if it didn't, we would die attempting to stop it. It had to stop. We became suicide warriors, dedicated to that, and that struggle kept escalating. We broke into the Pentagon, the only people in history to break into the Pentagon. The first and last time that'll ever happen, and we were beaten out. This anti-war struggle kept escalating, going to the point of the weathermen and different groups, including ours, that were involved with different sabotage events. The anti-war effort was kept escalating, and the government at some point realized that they were going to lose it, that it was just going to go higher and higher and higher. And so they chose, rather than lose control of society, that they would bring about the end of the war. So we felt successful. We felt that our dedication was part of that struggle that brought it to an end. And that's always really troubled me, that there's nothing like that today. Like, it's, how long it's taken for the Gaza genocide to be stopped. It's unbelievable how long it has gone on. It must be stopped. Anyway, at some point, there was an attempt at my assassination. There were 3 attempts made by the different law enforcement agencies. So I disappeared. I disappeared for 40 years. And in that time, I became more and more aware of the spiritual need as well, that politics was not enough. There's been many revolutions on Earth, but none of them have led to the change that they fought for, that they died for. It's turned, at some point, turned to dictatorships worse than what they overthrew. So the Tsar was overthrown, but you end up with Stalin, and now you have Putin. America, you have they fought for what they considered a revolutionary change, and you end up with Trump. I mean, so there's something missing, that all revolutionary movements have led to a dictatorship and control. And so I thought the spiritual was the element missing, one that showed that life itself is what's essential, a free life, a life without authoritarian control. And so many of the so-called revolutionary movements have been authoritarian. Marxism, Leninism, they're authoritarian, and they lead to dictatorships. Even Lenin had the audacity to call dictatorship of the proletariat, dictatorship. And sure enough, that's what they ended up with, dictatorship. So in order to prevent that from that continuation of all change, revolutionary movements becoming authoritarian dictatorships, I felt that the spiritual understanding, the value of life itself, the beauty of creation, the need for free flow in this existence, I would dedicate toward myself too. And so besides the need for political change, we need to change the way we understand life itself so that we have a non-authoritarian system, one that allows people to live freely. And so my struggle is continued. And the full circle is the effort to show that growth and need. So I hope that people are able to find that publication, that they maybe have a chance to read it, maybe have some understanding of the need for change, the need for revolution, but a non-authoritarian revolution. Marxism will never lead to a non-authoritarian revolution. It's based on authority, on control, on parties, organizations. So we need alternative means to build a free life, a revolutionary life. So if there's any, I think it's pretty clear my feelings about it, my understanding. So if there's any questions, I'm more than willing to answer any questions. But I really hope people are able to find that publication and maybe find some value in it, find something useful in their life, useful for this change. We need a change desperately. What we have now, this authoritarian control system, it's untenable. It leads to things like genocide in Gaza. It leads to all the full prisons that we have. So we have to understand what a revolution is needed, but a non-authoritarian one based on the sanctity of life itself. And it's a spiritual thing. It is absolutely not religion. Spirituality is the opposite of religion. Religion is built to control man, to dictate to man. And spirituality frees man and women, frees them. Whereas religion is the opposite. So a religion it's absurd. Like books. Do you think that the Creator writes books, Bibles? The Creator makes life, not books. And so we have to understand life itself and find a way to translate that. Anyway, if there's any questions, I'm more than willing.
Oh, Bing, we are here. We don't have words to say thank you for these incredible thoughts. Share your thoughts with us. I read the book. I love this book. And we have here many journeys here. Look, one thing is that I don't understand how people go to march Palestine, but then pay tax. You know what I mean? I mean, we need to understand where the money goes, you know, and how the money support these structure, this society's capitalism, and then how money is the mechanism, the cell for this shit. How can we, you know, stop money and live in mutual idea?
I don't completely understand the question, but
sorry, my bad in English. Sorry.
There's a need to go back to trade.
What happened?
With each other.
It's okay.
And barter, like to reduce the use of money, like to concentrate more on barter and trade, and theft doesn't hurt either.
Yeah. Hey Ben, it's Jim.
Yeah.
We just want to say one thing, that your book Full Circle is one of our favorite books here at Pitt, and
yeah,
everyone here loves it, and we've moved quite a few of them through here. I wanted to ask you how your experience in the wilderness would influence your ideas about money and barter and trade and living and life.
That's a great question. That's a great question, Jim. When I went to the wilderness, I lived on horseback in the wilderness for 4 years, 5 years. And I survived on hunting and gathering. No store-bought goods, living on what was provided by creation itself. And when I went into the wilderness, in the back of my mind was some understanding and need to find what it was that we really needed in this life. I wanted to go back to zero, get as far from civilization as I could, and rely on the Creator and what's provided by creation. So I relied on hunting and gathering for 5 years, and I learned so much about the basic need of life, the fulfillment of life, away from a money economy, away from the civilization which leads to imprisonment. And then when I came out of the wilderness, I continued living on with nature. Homesteading and growing food and still hunting and having livestock. I wanted to continue a life that needed civilization as little as possible. And that's what I really feel we need to build alternatives. Like we need to, when possible, to grow our own food, to hunt, continue to hunt. And hunting has a dual need. It allows you to understand weaponry that could be of use in defense, as well as helps provide sustenance. So it's a necessity when possible. Does that make any sense to you?
It does.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great.
Absolutely. Great. Super. Okay, we need to go to Colombia now. Is that?
But
if somebody here have questions for being,
what's that?
Questions here? Yeah, looks like no questions. Everybody loves being.
Yeah.
Everybody's here.
Well,
Do you like? Oh,
I wish I was there.
I wish you were here, Toby. We miss you. Yeah.
I wish I could talk to you and face to face because I miss you all.
Yeah, we too.
I'm getting older in this life, and I don't know how much longer I have, but the struggle must go on. It's so necessary.
Absolutely.
It has to intensify. Like
Yeah.
that's in the 60s, I coined the term affinity group. That people need to develop affinity groups where that is, and that group can do things without being known. The only people who know what they're doing is that group itself, a small affinity group, 3 or 4 people. And they coordinate with other affinity groups.
Exactly.
And so much can be done.
Exactly.
The planet is a total soft target. There's no reason that this, like, Israel can't be stopped.
Yeah.
The world is a soft target. Every place, wherever there's Israeli things, existence, it has to be dismantled. A genocide cannot continue. And all forms of oppression must be stopped.
Well, Bean, thank you so much. We're here from the book fair. We don't have words enough to thank you for, everything you say. Each word was really deep in our heart. And then we need to move to Colombia because the cohorts for Colombia go now to talk. But thank you so much, and hope next year we are with us, okay?
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
I look forward to seeing you all again.
Yeah, we see you soon, Ben. Love you. Love
Ciao,
you.
Ben.
Ciao, Ben.
Love you, Ben.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Keep up the struggle. Keep up the struggle. Never give up the struggle.
We keep going, Ben. We keep going. We keep going for sure. Okay, now, you wanna maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Now from Colombia, we have shortly we should be joined by Revista Diogenes, a group of or a new magazine now with 3 issues. But Gustavo writes to me, actually, we need to switch links.
And language, no? Oh.
We need to switch from part 1 to part 2.
Oh, yeah, that's true. We need the interval.
So if you are joining from YouTube, there'll be a short break.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
There's a part 2 link on a Radical Guide's website. We recommend you check the schedule there. The new video will be uploaded there. And we'll take 5 minutes, and we'll see you again shortly.
Thank you so much.